Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome to today's lesson. I hope all of you have found the lead chess study. I hope all of you are ready for our chess lesson. Guys, holidays coming up soon. Oh, I'm sure you guys are pretty excited about that. It's going to be always an exciting time. A little bit of a break. Nice holiday on the horizon. A little bit cold of late. I hope you guys are staying warm. Get those blankets out. And let's get ready for some chess. All right, it looks like quite a few of you were already in the lead chess study. Kind of happy about that. Good, you got to jump the gun there a little bit, but nothing wrong. As long as you guys were picking up some information, sort of might help you to solve some of these problems ahead of some of your peers. All right, cool. Guys, without further ado, let's get into today's lesson. Okay, we've got some exciting exercises ahead of us. Sort of a bit of a continuation from last week's exercises, sort of from the same sort of theme. We've got discovery, discovered checks, discovered attacks, with a bit of double checks mixed in there as well. So I'm pretty sure that always leads to some exciting play. So definitely one of the more exciting chapters or themes. And then after that, we're going to head into some pretty exciting general Italian game stuff. I just want to cover a couple things just to make sure those opening repertoires are looking nice and just that you guys understand what you want to be doing in certain positions. I'll touch on, we'll get to that later. I'll touch on that when we get there. Let's get those brains warmed up. I see a couple of you struggling. Sorry about that. I don't know what's the story. From my side, everything looks good. Just remember to keep those microphones muted. It seems like some of you are struggling with the Zoom connection. I'm not sure what that could be, if it's maybe something on your side or if Zoom is maybe having a bit of issues. So I apologize. Not sure what's going on there. Okay, let's move into today's exercises. All right, first off the bat, we've got black to play and win. I think a lot of you have been looking at it. You probably already got it. As usual, type your answers into the lead chess chat room, like Keanu has already done. Jumped the gun a little bit there, but nicely done. It's a good move. And if you can't do that, then feel free to use the Zoom chat. Bishop C2 check is our first solution given. Not bad, not bad. Always good. You can see you've got the discovered check here. So wherever I move this bishop, I'm going to check the king, which means they're going to have to deal with the check, which means I need to look for somewhere where I can do some damage. That's what Keanu's done here. He's been like, oh, I see the queen there and I know what I want. Yep, that's generally a good idea. But you know what they say? When you see a good move, look for a better one. And that message absolutely applies to this chapter or this study. Let's see what you guys can come up with. Hint, there's a mate. There's a juicy little mate lurking here. Come on, guys, get involved. I want those answers pouring in. Obviously, as long as they're well thought out answers, that is. I don't want you guys just guessing. That was no good for anybody. We don't do guessing. If you look at the material, white is winning by, it looks like a full queen. That's a full queen. So bishop c2, king moves, bishop b3, a takes b3. It looks like we'll still be a piece down when the dust settles. White will be a piece up, black a piece down. And I think we can do better. Well, I already told you guys, we can definitely do better. No takers. All right, I'll help you guys with the first one, but we need to get more involved, guys. I need you more involved. I want some solutions here. All right, so the first move, like you guessed it, with the bishop, and no surprise to see that it's a double check. Double checks always need to be investigated. Like we've been touching on the last few lessons, double check the king has to move. There's no taking, there's no blocking. Very important one just to highlight. Then the king is forced to E1. Mate in 1. 10 seconds or less. Who can come up with the goods? Mate in 1. Aha, somebody has come up with it. Very nice. Rook F1, straight mate. Alrighty. So nifty idea. Yeah, and that's just a maiden 2. I mean, not the most complex one that we've done together. I'm sure you guys would have seen that. But I think a lot of us would have been too tempted by this free queen. Actually, ooh, I just realized now, I saw king, but I realized I can actually just move the queen. That's a far better move, far better. Because now instead of losing my queen for a bishop, I'm going to lose my queen for a rook. I'm also going to develop this knight, which I'm pretty happy about. White's just a rook up here, and pretty happy about that. Let's move. Let's cruise. All right, what have we got here? Black to play and win. A little bit of an exercise. If you look at the piece standing, it looks like white has a rook against the bishop. So white is leading on the material. But this rook is definitely not what you want from your rooks. We know that the rooks, they like space. They like the control of open files or semi-open files. Like our friend over here is doing some good work. This guy not doing too bad work as well. This guy, on the other hand, no. Definitely not what you want from your rook. And this is sort of a big part of why black has these sort of opportunities here in this position. Black to play and win. Let's rock and roll. So again, guys, possible checks, possible takes. That should be where your brain is already going. You're sort of scouring the board for these possible checks, possible takes. What can I do here? What can I do? I know that there's something, so I've got to just try and hunt it down. Rook G5, an interesting move coming in the lead chess chat here. I like Rook G5. It's well thought out as well. We'll touch on that in a moment. Let's see if anybody else can come up with something. So there's no checks here, so that makes life a little tricky. You've got a chat coming here. Rook D1, nice. Okay, we got somebody has entered here. All right, that's good, good. So he said Rook G5, but you lose a bishop. All right, so he sort of found the solution to the problem himself. That's nice. I like that. Very, very well spotted. So Rook G5, Keanu's idea here. Very nice. It's a little bit of a trap. He wants you to take the queen. I love that analysis, by the way. That's nice. Always nice when you set your opponent a little trap, a little landmine in the field. He might be an unsuspecting victim. Tra-la-la-la-la, I pick up a queen. No, you don't. Rook takes G4 check, forces the queen to come back. Ouch. And then, okay, black's got some choices on his hands. Maybe he goes bishop takes and wins the rook. Rook takes, king moves. Yeah, interesting. But like he said, there's queen H3, which looks like that's just winning for white. Unfortunately, but nice try. We also had Rook D1 from Dan. Very nice. It's good stuff. Rook D1 is a classy move, and it is actually the correct solution. Let's try and analyze it a bit in our heads and just see. Whoa, it looks like a crazy talk move. You're like, there's no possible way that can be correct. Well, it is. Let's investigate it a little further. So Rook D1, of course, the start of the easy ones. If white goes Rook takes D1, then black just goes Queen F3, and that's just game over. So Rook D1. The other move that you should probably be investigating is what if white goes Queen D1? Well, that opens the diagonal for Queen G2 mate. That's not so pretty for the white pieces. So then you've got to say to yourself, well, what am I going to do here if I'm playing white? I've got a tough spot. because this is happening and this is happening. It doesn't seem like there's an adequate way for white to solve both of these problems. Moving the queen, you're losing to rook e1 or to queen g2. And this is what they call zugzwang. This position is lost. No matter where you play, you are bust. Bishop g2 must be from the previous position. Okay, so look, whatever white does here, he's just lost. There is no adequate way to find, or even to last. I mean, I'm trying to think, can he at least maybe last 2 moves? Does it just mate the next move no matter what? If he takes the bishop, he gets mated. If he takes the queen, he gets mated. If he takes the rook, probably rook. I mean, that seems like the best solution. At least it's not mate in 1. It is probably going to be mate in 2. It looks like a white can sneak in a check. Obviously, I'm just going to escape the check. And this is a nice little net, something that you guys have seen before. The bishop and the queen work together quite nicely on this square. And that will be game over. Beautiful little puzzle, in my opinion at least. Rook d1, nicely solved. Well done. Okie dokie. New puzzle, new exercise, new story. White to play and win. If you look for if you see a good move, look for a better one. I believe that's going to be applicable here again. Let's get cracking. Look at the material. Look at all possible checks, all possible takes. See what you can find. What's going on in this position? Oof. Well, there's a knight here causing a bit of trouble. You're just like, oof, definitely not excited about that knight paying a visit to my position. It's like the queens are also looking at one another here. Definitely something that white needs to consider or have at least have a look at. Not a lot of checks in this position, but there's a couple. You need to have a look at those as well. Let's see what we can come up with. The one thing about problems or puzzles is that you know that there's a solution. And I think I've touched on this before, but making the conversion from solving puzzles, you know, in this sort of exercise format, and then translating that to over the board play is one that's a little bit challenging, you know. So generally, if you can see puzzles on, let's say, like in an exercise situation, you will only be able to see a little bit easier stuff on the board because there's nobody there in the board to tell you, hey, guys, there's a mate in 3 here. Okay? That little voice doesn't come into your head. I've looked for that voice before when I've been playing. He hasn't arrived. But let's bear that in mind at least. So when you're on the board, keep those eyes peeled. Hopefully today when we're doing some playing, I want you guys looking. I want you always on the lookout. There could be an opportunity sneaking in, and you don't want to be that guy that misses that opportunity. All right, so we've got already a nice something here. Bishop g5 looks good. Bishop g5 always seemingly a feature in these situations. We'll touch on that now. Let's just see what the chats have to say. Queen f2. He's like, nah, I want the free knight. Thank you, Dan. Dan's like, no, I'm taking the knight. That's cool. I'm going to take that knight and run. Probably a safe bet. If you don't see anything better, if you don't see something that's a little bit juicier, winning you more material or a mate of some kind, then definitely happy to pick up the piece, solve some of my problems, and we'll go on and play a little bit of an end game, depending on how black responds further. Bishop g5, let's just see. It seems like there's this overwhelming threat of rook d8. So interesting because I think a lot of people playing black might be tempted to take the queen. Excuse that. Queen h4, and if you take the queen, it looks like this is just straight mate. White's like, no, I'm not taking you back. I'm just going to mate you rather. That would be suiting me a little bit better. But okay, I mean, I don't think that this move is forced. The other one, I was like, can't I just take the rook at first glance? And then I'm like, no, you can't take the rook because then your knight isn't defending the queen. So bishop g5, the plot is thickening. Rook d1 or rook d8 rather, sorry, being threatened. Probably I can just play knight c6 and cover these squares. Looks like that should solve things. I guess white still has the option of queen f2, but now the g5 bishop will be under siege from this rook on g8. So perhaps not. Bishop g5, as always. I appreciate you guys' answers. Like I said, I want you guys to get involved. You get it wrong, so what? At least you come up with something. You come up with a nice move and try your hand, try your analysis, and we learn from our mistakes. That's it. So nice try there. Bishop g5 and queen f2. Both good moves. Unfortunately, both of them are incorrect. It's a mate in 3. 1, 2, 3. That's correct. It's a mate in 3. And the first move is with the queen. Let's see if those clues help anybody here. There's certain individuals on the Zoom who haven't really participated as much as I would have liked. Come on, guys. Get involved. Mate in 3, white to play. First move of the queen. Let's rock and roll. So we've got a queen f6. Interesting. I'm not really sure where that queen's going. Let's see. Where is this queen headed? Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't really find a good idea there. I must have missed something. Yeah, look, bishop g5, it feels like that might be a little slow. There is this coming in, which is a bit scary. This bishop takes d2. Now you'd have to go king takes d2, which no one's particularly excited about that move. Rook takes d2 seems like it does fall victim to this. Then rook d1, queen d1 mate. A little bit unpleasant there. Okay, that's fine. Nice try, though. Nice try. Guys, it looks like we need to move on from this one. It is, like we said, mate in 3. A little bit of a sacrifice. It doesn't look real. It is real. Queen d8 check. I'm pretty sure we did a very similar example. It was either a week or 2 weeks ago where it was same kind of thing where we put the king on this square, or either the king was already on this square, which then gave rise to the double check and then the mate. So quite common, comes from a very old game, a very old world championship match, I think probably around the 1900s, like literally 1900 or 1902, somewhere there, where this sort of sequence of moves was first seen. And then king takes. King has to take. It's not like black has a choice. That gives rise to bishop g5. We've got the double check. As we know, we've addressed it. Double check. You got to move the king. Only available square. Mate in 1. Boom. And that is the ball game. Mate in 1. And ouch. I'm sure black would feel that one for a little while. Definitely a beautiful continuation, or combination rather, from white. And that's that. Let's move. Okay, so this one a little bit different. There's no mate here. There's no mate here. It's white to play and win some material. I'll give you a clue. We've got to win the queen. I want more positive feedback. So we've got to win the black queen. It's white to play. Let's win the black queen. Again, you should be looking at all kind of moves with the bishop. You're like, where can I move this bishop that can cause some problems? Maybe bishop here, maybe bishop here, bishop here. But what you've also got to be mindful of is, yes, you'll give the discovered check. The problem is, ooh, that was a bit skew. The black queen can just take your queen. So if it's not a double check, it's probably not going to do you any justice, because then black can just take. So like this, you're thinking it's check and you're winning the rook. Then they're like, no, they just take your queen. and that backfires in a very nasty manner. Bishop f6, it's lacking a little bit of detail there. I want a little bit more insight into that move. I mean, bishop f6, sure, looks good. King takes is forced. I don't imagine black can really think about playing anything else. And then where do I go after that? Where do I go after that? It looks like he's escaping because I don't really see any good checks. I mean, there's no checks after bishop f6, king f6. Bishop d6, also interesting, an interesting little move. Again, we need a bit of backup. I need a bit more analysis. Bishop d6 coming from Zach. Thank you, Zach. Yeah, it's a nice idea. All right, fine. Bishop d6 is the right move. It's unanimous. But guys, like I've said before, we're at a more advanced level here, and I want a bit more than maybe just one move analysis. So bishop d6, it might be a great move if you find the next move for white. But if you don't find the next move, then maybe you just lose a free bish. Let's see who's got the goods. White to play. Rook d1. Who's defending this rook on d1? It's a nice try from Dan. I love it. But I'm just a little worried that the queen is going to just help themselves to a rook. And then I feel like I might just be losing a rook. Aha! He's changed his mind. He's like, wait a second. I've come up with the goods. And so has Zach. All right, rook d3. Nicely done, boys. That's it. I think you guys were feeding off each other there a little bit. That's cool. Nothing wrong. Obviously, these puzzles are a little bit more difficult than your standard run-of-the-mill stuff. So I designed it specifically that way. So that's cool. I'm perfectly happy with that. Rook d3. And what has happened? Well, we're winning a queen. Always good. I know how you guys love to hunt down the opposition queen. And who doesn't? That's good news. So it looks like black is now forced. Either you can lose the queen for free, or as I always tell you guys, if you're going to lose material, try and at least get the most that you can for it. Looks like I can at least take a rook in this situation. So queen d3, queen d3. And black probably needs to try and return the king to safety. He wants to try and get the king back there. Look, I mean, it's not over. It's not over. White has successfully managed to win the queen for a rook and a knight. Or a rook and a bishop, rather. But, I mean, the opponent has a rook and a knight left against the queen. And that's 8 points against 9 points. We know the queen's better, something that we are familiar with, but still a bit of work ahead for white. Maybe you can catch them with a trick and maybe win some more. I mean, like something like this, for instance. Now, this square looks quite vulnerable. So maybe something like this. And the idea is that I'm going to pounce with queen f7. I suspect rook f8 to defend this square, which will allow me to bring in my rook. Q1 looks good. And then this is sort of how the game might continue. I don't know if we can mate him here, but perhaps. We just have to see what we can come up with. Queen d5 looks tempting. And then maybe rook c1. But this is the way that things might go. Just be careful. Don't go to e6. I thought about that for a second. Could have been dropping a queen. No good there. Anyway, so bishop d6. Nice double check. Picking up the queen. Well spotted, guys. And then this one, a little bit of a tricky one in my opinion. I think it might be one of the hardest of the lot. I saved it for last. Because it's a little bit of an unfamiliar move. There are no good checks here for black. These checks all don't bring him anything. It's not really, let's say, good attacking moves. It's a weird little move with the black knight that ends up winning black material because of what's called an intermediate or in-between move. Let's see if you guys can come up with that. What? Running out of time already. Okay, guys, we're going to have to speed this one up. Let's go. Go, go, go. I'm always telling you guys to think carefully. Now I'm telling you guys to rush. Which one is it, you know? Yeah, you got to do a bit of both. Rook d2. I think he means knight d2. I imagine it's knight, because I did tell you it's with the knight. Knight d2 makes sense. Worried about queen takes d2 though, but you're on the right track, young man. I like what I'm seeing. That's a good move. Someone's been practicing. That's good. That's good, good, good. So knight d2, you see he's got a little scheme here, guys. He's thinking knight d2, and he's like, okay, if white takes the queen, then he sneaks this knight takes f3 check. So he sneaks that move in. Then white will have to take the knight back, and then I can take, and then I can take the queen back. Little bit tricky. Nice try. It's basically the right idea. You just need to find a new move. All right, he's got it. Rook g5, rook f5, knight g5. Same idea, guys. So the knight, like I said, the knight's looking at this f3, and he takes the rook with check. I think that's a huge point here. So this is what's called, like I said, an in-between or an intermediate move. It's kind of like I'm sneaking it in between. The other threat that is happening here is obviously the threat of the queens. So you can't just move the rook because then you drop a queen. So white, you can move the queen away, and then again it's knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, and black wins an exchange. Winning an exchange, winning a rook for a piece, losing an exchange, losing a rook for a piece. So probably queen takes g6, knight f3 check. Like I said, so important that it's check. Otherwise white would just simply move the queen somewhere. But he can't, so he might as well get rid of the check. We take the queen. Which one do we take with? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Just kidding. We don't do it like that. You always take towards the center when it comes to taking with the pawns. Which one? This is away. This is towards. Take towards the center. And okay, so maybe bishop takes, rook takes. Looks like this is lurking as well. I think this should be fairly comfortable for black. Rook against bishop. And the position's opening up quite nicely. You've got also moves like this. It's going to be very, very difficult to hold this position for white. Let's move on. Thanks, guys. All right, so let's leave the exercises behind. I hope you guys have been doing your exercises in the step book that we've given to you guys. That's good, and that will help keep you guys sharp. Definitely something you want to be doing. Tactics are a very, very important part of chess, and if you're good with tactics, you're definitely a force to be reckoned with on the chessboard. So keep those up. Adjusting, that was accidental. We want to talk about e5 today. All right, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. So for a lot of us, this is what we do, and this is what we play, and this is our standard Italian game. So I just wanted to touch on some general things that I wanted you guys to know. I think we've discussed if black's going to play knight f6, we are quite happy to enter into the fried liver complications, and these generally seem to be favorable for white for the most part, at this level at least. It does seem like it's quite challenging for black to deal with these problems, and not too excited about that. For that reason exactly, I would point out that for most of you playing black in these positions, rather just play bishop c5. And that avoids the liver. Fried liver, sorry. And then if d3, knight f6, knight g5, black can simply just castle. So of course, if black has the option to castle and defend f7, you don't go for knight g5. then you just play the normal stuff. I think last time I recommended to you guys also the possibility of 5c3 or 4c3, and then this way you can go pawn to d4. Again, after you've castled, I'd recommend you do it after you've castled, and then you can break in the center with d4. Something along these lines. I also like bishop g5 as a general move too. Always good if your opponent doesn't stop you by playing h6. So that's cool. That's cool. That's sorted. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Another one that maybe we haven't touched on too much is d6. And for the most part, d6 is basically exactly the same. They need to defend this pawn. So you just continue with your development. Knight f6 now really gets punished by knight g5. So a very important one. If you're someone who plays d6 who do not do this, make sure that you develop the bishop to e7 first to prevent the knight from getting to that square. Then once you go knight f6, you can simply just castle and hold the f7 square. Solid. This is a Hungarian defense for black. Solid. I recommend it in a lot of cases. I'm quite a fan of it, so nothing wrong there. It's solid. Very difficult for white to breach, provided you play it correctly, of course. And then another move that I made a video on that I hope you guys have been paying attention to, because I've had a couple games throughout the course of my life that have been very memorable when my opponents played f6. And guys, f6 is almost always a no-no. I just wanted to touch on that. Do not, no. That's all I want to say about f6 is just no. f6 is just one of those moves that in these positions are no good. You can see this diagonal very, very nasty. And black's going to struggle to castle. Just a very unpleasant position altogether. Unpleasant so that white can even just take this e5 pawn. And if I'm black in this position, the best move is probably just to say, thank you for taking my pawn, and I just develop. Just try and survive this. The other thing is, I mean, it's illogical. The knight wants to get to this square, and it just doesn't sit well for black's structure. Just to recap on that, this queen h5 check trick. What's happening is you're hitting e5. So if g6, there's queen e5 with the rook dropping. So this position is basically lost already. So after f5, after f6, knight e5, fe5, queen h5, already black in deep trouble. And like I said, there's a video on this where we go into a little bit more detail. I recommend you guys check this out. To f6 being bad. I think the title of the video is something to that effect. So queen f5, king h6, d4, opening up the attack onto the king, g5, h4, opening up the line of the rook onto the king. Hey, we've got a pin here. Attack the pieces. That is what the rules say. That's what the principles say. Follow your principles. And then from here, if memory serves, there's no way to prevent mate. White is mating black unstoppable. The threat is h takes g with a double check with a pawn, and it's check with a rook. So let's say you play like, maybe you can get away with this. Let's say you play d6, it's hg and queen f7. Death. All right, so that was that story. Don't play f6, pretty please. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there for this afternoon. Please keep practicing, keep playing, play on those chestnuts tournaments, and just try and play general games a little bit every day. Will help you guys to get better. Have a fantastic afternoon, an even better holiday. Look after yourselves, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.